Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Hello there, good evening and a warm welcome to the National News telecast on Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. Bringing you your top stories for tonight, I'm Sonal Paranavitana.
A very good evening, I'm Delanjali Ananda and these are the headlines for tonight. Rescue and search operations continue in the sea area of the ill-fated Iranian warship. 87 bodies recovered. USA and Israel intensifies attacks on Iran. The death toll exceeds 1,000. Middle East region in a grave crisis. Airlines pay attention to alternate air routes due to the Middle East crisis. A tanker carrying 90,000 metric tons of crude oil to reach the island on the 11th of this month.
Moving on with your top local story for tonight. Rescue and search operations in sea area of the island where an Iranian warship was sunk is being further carried out.
Bodies of 87 persons in the sunken ship have also been recovered. The Marine Rescue Coordination Center received an information of a ship in difficulty yesterday early in the morning. Accordingly, the Navy commenced search and rescue operations and were able to rescue 32 persons in the sea area. The Navy suspects them to be belonging to the crew of the ill-fated Iranian warship. Later, they were admitted to the Goa National Hospital for treatment. According to reports, the condition of one of them is critical. It is also believed that the bodies recovered from the ill-fated ship are of the crew members. Sri Lanka Air Force also assisted in this operation. Security of the Goa National Hospital premises, where the dead bodies are being kept and the injured are being treated, has been beefed up. Views have been expressed in the Parliament today in this regard. Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said that 87 bodies had been brought in so far, but the available freezer facilities in Goa National Hospital and nearby hospitals were insufficient to accommodate them. He explained that the government also lacked enough freezer containers and therefore had to obtain additional units from the private sector. According to the minister, arrangements were underway to transport freezer containers from Colombo to Goa within a few hours. He noted that one container would not be sufficient and that at least 2 containers were expected to be required. The minister added that the operation was being carried out with the involvement of the Ministry of Defence, the Ministry of Health and other relevant officials. Referring to statements made at the previous day's media briefing, the minister said there had been various opinions about whether the incident was an attack or an accident. He pointed out that the United States government had issued an official statement later that evening and that Sri Lanka had acted based on the information available at the time. Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa expressed his views regarding another Iranian ship which has arrived in the territorial waters of the country. Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa also clarified that the vessel involved was not within Sri Lanka's territorial waters but within the exclusive economic zone close to national waters, adding that authorities were doing everything possible regarding the lives affected by the incident. The Middle East region has fallen into a severe crisis due to attacks launched by the United States and Israel targeting Iran.
It is reported that the death toll from attacks over the past 5 days has exceeded 1,000. Meanwhile, an attempt by the US Senate to limit President Donald Trump's war powers has proved unsuccessful.
United States and Israeli forces have intensified their attacks on Iran. Iranian state media report that more than 1,000 people have died in the strikes. Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, says that an American submarine managed to destroy an Iranian warship in international waters of the Indian Ocean. Another Iranian warship was attacked by the United States Navy in the Gulf of Oman. The Iris Shirazi, belonging to the Iranian Navy, was the vessel that came under attack, according to confirmation from the Pentagon. This vessel, belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, is an advanced catamaran-type warship equipped with anti-aircraft missile systems designed to destroy enemy aircraft. Meanwhile, an F-351 Adir fighter jet of Israel has shot down an Iranian Yak-130 aircraft in the skies over Tehran, Israeli defense authorities confirm. This marks the first time in history that a fifth-generation stealth fighter jet has shot down a manned enemy aircraft in combat. The aerial battle reportedly took place during a massive wave of Israeli airstrikes inside Iran. Reports state that the Iranian aircraft built with Russia origin technology was completely destroyed. Israel defense officials say the Israeli F-351 aircraft was not damaged in the engagement. A proposal presented to limit the war operations being conducted against Iran by President Donald Trump has been defeated in the United States Senate. It is reported that the majority of senators voted in support of the president's military operations. Reports circulating that Kurdish forces are entering Iran have been denied by Iran's Tasnim news agency and Kurdish political party leaders. They state that no such ground military operation is taking place across the border. Abbas Araki, Iran's foreign minister, says that information has been received about terrorist groups operating near the Iran-Iraq border. President Donald Trump has made a controversial statement regarding the future leadership of Iran. He says that after Ali Khamenei, Iran's governance should resemble a Venezuela-style government model. He has rejected the option of appointing Reza Pahlavi as Iran's next leader. Iranian state media report that the state funeral of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei has been postponed. Organizers say the three-day funeral ceremony has been postponed until the necessary infrastructure and arrangements are completed. A new date for the ceremony has not yet been announced. Meanwhile, the Iran war continues to expand. Saudi Arabia reports that it destroyed 3 missiles that approached its border. Israel continues to carry out strikes on Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Iran says it will not stop its military retaliation until hostile attacks against it cease. Amid Israeli strikes, more than 83,000 people have been displaced in southern Lebanon, according to official confirmation from the Lebanon Ministry of Social Affairs. Thousands of civilians are fleeing to safer locations due to heavy airstrikes. Reports indicate that the government is facing serious challenges in providing relief services to the displaced population. International media say the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon is worsening further under the ongoing war conditions. Dan Kane, head of the United States Pentagon, has commented on Iran's offensive capabilities during a media briefing. He states that since the first day of the conflict, Iran's ballistic missile launches have decreased by 86%, with a further 23% drop observed within the past 24 hours alone. He also notes that Iran's drone strike operations have decreased by 73% since the beginning of the conflict. He further stated to the media that the United States military is conducting extensive strikes deep inside Iranian territory. Now, as said in the previous report, this conflict between US and Israel and Iran is certainly an incident which is escalating by the hour. And to talk more on this and to get an update, we have an expert in the international communications and geopolitics, Dr. Manoj Jinadasa, Senior Lecturer and Head of Department of Mass Communication of the University of Kelaniya. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. So if you are able to bring us up to date and a quick analysis of the situation.
At the moment, the war is emerging for another dimensions that we never ever expect this kind of a crisis in the early beginning of the 21st century. This is not a war, but it is a kind of effects of a mental lunaticism, as the geopolitics and the international communication explain, because one person's idiosyncrasy has become a crisis over the world. So that has taken a much bad effects over next decades. So this has more effects not only for the human beings but also the every living sentient beings. That is the latest analysis, because still the two parties are not yet for good solutions. Even the Geneva or the UN Congress, which is the Security Council, which established in 1945, that never ever we don't want this kind of a crisis. That is the effect from the First and Second World War. But here, once again, 100 years after, by 2026, again the same things has coincidental. That's the latest analysis.
Now, Doctor, these events in the global stage, they don't happen haphazardly, right? These have some build-up. It doesn't just happen out of thin air. Yeah. What sort of an origin story does this conflict between Iran and together USA and Israel?
Well, Sonal, now you know that this is not isolated or elucidated as a result of one single coherent aspect or holistic incident, but it has a longly driven rooted. You know, after the Second World War, what happened with the conflict of antagonistic disputes between JVs and other people in Europe. The segmentarian people were located in the Palestine, the Gaza, so that this is then extension of the 21st century war, so that the origin is purely a religious, but still it prevailed as the conflict between Western and Eastern powers. So nowadays people thinking like Russia, India, China and some of the African leaders are conglomerating for another dimensions. But meanwhile, this in when it comes to the global South, South Asian, we are having a very good potential to deal with this kind of segmentarian conflict. It is neither a war but a kind of a mental lunaticism. Once again I stress why that. The Hitler, soon after the Second World War in the Berlin, hit himself by his shot. He told that I wanted a very clear white world, but I failed. It is only my idiosyncratic mental lunaticism. The same thing happened. It is not the fact of the Donald Trump or so, but it's a fact of once again the depression of humankind. Maybe the information or whatever the technology or the science or whatever we have been failed.
Now, Doctor, there in terms of reporting, now various international media organizations are reporting this incident in various different ways. Sometimes there might be biases, yep. There might be some agendas, backstory agendas. So what do you have to say about the neutrality when reporting very sensitive matters when it comes to global war situations around the world?
Well, Sonal, that is the fact. As the media which can have the space and the intersection to see what is happening today in our current lives, the media's role is very critical and coincidental. Why I say that the media is not neutral? You know, at the very beginning of the First or Second World, that was the same thing happened, that the media has an underlying ideology which support for either one of the political or economic power. But later on, when it becomes 1960, Noam Chomsky said that it is neither politics, but the politics is played under the play of economics. You know who is the Donald Trump? Donald Trump represents from the American capitalism. So that is the case. The earlier, you know, the Trump, it's not the Trump, will say other presidents' lives. Who are them? So they represent some kind of what you states peoples believe that what they want as the democracy or the liberal kind of a society. But Donald Trump represents the ill effects of the Western bloody capitalism. So that media is doing this much more. That means media is doing the war. It's not the war in the ground, but the media is showing us an exaggerated flamboyance war. That's why the media, you know, that when it comes to the CNN or Al Jazeera, or they are represent their own religiosity, their own ethnic interpretation to the war. But we as the nation should represent how we can calm down and cool down our people through a proper spectatorship. So the media role in this juncture is very critical, should be more polite and honest in order to make a very peaceful society in our eyes, before our eyes.
I think that's great insights, Dr. Manoj. Thank you very much. And as the state broadcaster, the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation always stand by the unbiased nature of news reporting. Thank you, Dr. Manoj Jinadasa. We had the head of department, senior lecturer at the Department of Mass Communication at the University of Kelaniya. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining with us.
Continuing with more news from home, a special discussion was held yesterday regarding security of Sri Lankan migrant workers in the Middle East yesterday.
The meeting was held between the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vijitha Herath, and foreign ministers of several countries in the Middle East region.
Foreign ministers of Bahrain, Lebanon, Kuwait and Deputy Prime Minister of Jordan have attended the discussions with the Sri Lankan Foreign Minister over the phone. Minister Vijitha Herath had inquired into current war situation in the Middle East and expressed his regards and condolences to the parties concerned. He has also requested to consolidate protection provided to migrant Sri Lankan nationals and also ensured that the Sri Lankan government has accepted the responsibility to grant safety of Sri Lankans who have returned home from the Middle East. Minister Herath added that Sri Lanka would not hesitate to extend humanitarian assistance in any emergency. Foreign ministries of the Middle Eastern countries have expressed their special thanks to the government of Sri Lanka for its willingness to extend cooperation. Meanwhile, a meeting between Minister Vijitha Herath and Foreign Minister of Israel over the welfare of more than 29,000 Sri Lankan nationals in Israel has taken place today. The Israel Foreign Minister has assured the safety of Sri Lankans living in Israel and added that attention will be focused on their well-being. The Minister of Foreign Affairs also says the meeting has also focused attention on urgent need to bring back peace in the region.
The Deputy Minister Ruwan Ranasinghe says that airlines have paid attention to open alternative air routes due to the Middle East crisis. He told a media briefing that the President has instructed to increase the security of embassies and locations where tourists are staying in this country amidst the prevailing crisis. Deputy Minister Ruwan Ranasinghe said that several airlines operating in the Middle East had begun reopening their airspace for limited periods, allowing Sri Lankan passengers stranded abroad to return to the country. He noted that Sri Lankans in Dubai had already started arriving in Sri Lanka under these arrangements. He said that flights operated by Sri Lankan Airlines, Fly Dubai and other carriers were continuing services to the Middle East on a restricted schedule. The Deputy Minister further explained that Sri Lanka was maintaining air connectivity with Europe through flights to cities such as Frankfurt and London. He added that additional travel options were available via the Pacific region through Singapore and Hong Kong, with onward connections to Europe through Tokyo. According to him, airlines and tour operators were working together to reroute passengers so they could return to their respective destinations, while also facilitating the arrival of tourists to Sri Lanka through these available flight routes. Now, Chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, D.A. Rajkarna, says that a vessel carrying 90,000 metric tons of crude oil is scheduled to arrive in the island on the 11th.
And the ship departed from Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates yesterday, and accordingly he emphasized that the CPC maintains the capability to supply fuel without any interruptions in the coming period.
Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has reassured that there are sufficient fuel reserves within the country. The ship departed from Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates yesterday. Accordingly, the CPC emphasized that they maintain the capability to supply fuel without any interruptions in the coming period. The government has initiated several measures to develop the country's energy sector and infrastructure, with an investment exceeding 30 billion rupees. The government is prioritizing the expansion of oil storage complexes in Kolonnavar, Muthurajavela and Trincomalee. Accordingly, construction has commenced on 8 new oil tanks at the Kolonnavar storage complex. This project, which has a total capacity of 86,000 metric tons, is being implemented at a cost of 5 billion rupees. A new oil storage complex is also being constructed at the Muthurajavela area with the capacity of 44,000 metric tons. The estimated cost for this project is 3.5 billion rupees and the awarding for tenders is currently in its final stages. Meanwhile, a new pipeline is being constructed to supply aviation fuel from Muthurajavela to Katunayaka. This will increase the storage capacity of Jet A1 fuel by 63,000 metric tons. The project is estimated to cost 16 billion rupees and will enable the storage of aviation fuel required for over 40 days based on current demand. Furthermore, reconstruction of work is underway at the Trincomalee oil tank complex. Under the first phase, 4 selected tanks are being renovated, 2 of which have already been completed. Tenders have also been called for the construction of a new pipeline system to transport fuel from sea to land at an estimated cost of 7.37 billion rupees. Upon completion of this project, an additional storage capacity of 40,000 metric tons will be added to the system. Steps have also been taken to automate the entire gantry system. This will reduce the time taken to unload oil from a tanker from the current 5 days to just 2 days. This project, with an estimated cost of 1.5 billion rupees, aims to minimize ship demurrage charges. 2 new oil pipelines are also being constructed from Kolonnavar to the port, replacing the 90-year-old system prone to frequent leaks. These new pipelines will be 14 inches and 18 inches in diameter. This project is estimated at 12.8 billion rupees and plans are underway to call for tenders. Additionally, a new naphtha pipeline system is set to be installed from Kolonnavar to Kalnitissa. The objective is to ensure an efficient fuel supply system while preventing accidents caused by the dilapidated final stages.
A special parliamentary select committee has been appointed to conduct a study to investigate the fact whether there were no preparations to face the threat of the Ditwa cyclone. The select committee will also be empowered to present suggestions and recommendations in this regard. Speaker Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne has also disclosed in Parliament today that Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa heads the parliamentary select committee. Speaker Dr. Jagat Vikramaratne announced that a special parliamentary committee has been appointed to conduct a comprehensive study on the lack of prior preparedness to face adverse weather situations such as floods and droughts. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Join us tomorrow at the same time for the very latest on Channel I. I'm Lanjali, together with Sivna, signing off. Good night.
Good night.
කවුද දිනන්නේ? පෙන්නනවද ඔගේ? ඔබතුමා වෙන කවුද? මේ පෙන්නු කරන්නේ?
මම වෙඩි තියෙන එකත් ඕක පේනවද?
ඔව්. නිකන් නෙමෙයි. AI වලින් ග්‍රැෆික් කරලාමයි පෙන්නන්නේ.
මේක අරන් එඩිය කපලා දාන්න.
ඔය අංජන මෙන් මාව පෙන්නුවොත් නම් මේ සතියේ වෛරල් එක මං වෙයි.
සුළු දෙයක් නේ. කරලා දෙන්නම්කෝ.
අංජනම් නොබලා ප්‍රවෘත්ති බලන්න ඕනේ නම්
රූපවාහිනී ප්‍රවෘත්ති බලන්න.
උඩු යටිකුරු ප්‍රවෘත්ති කලාවේ හරියට තියෙන එකම channel එක.
Rupavahini News.